Basketball. Basketball. Swish.
That's pretty epic.
What's going on?
I'm just waiting for him to be ready.
Oh, okay.
Basketball.
Yeah, I'm ready whenever you guys
Tyler,
are.
do I look...
Basketball.
Tell you what I say, do I look
Basketball.
Finish with that, I suppose you're gonna fly, huh?
fat? Alright. Ready to go?
No, I'm not ready, Tyler. It's been 2 seconds since you last asked me.
Hey, players only, baby.
Bang! Bang! Ain't no rules in the dog can't play basketball.
I do not like them, Sam I am.
Hello and welcome back to the third installment of the Slam I Am podcast. I am your host, Paul Witwer, and joining me once again is Paul Stop's animator and whose biggest basketball rival is his 10-year-old neighbor, Cameron Frazier.
You know, it's true, but if you could guard the crossover, then maybe it would be you. One day, buddy, one day.
Ooh, see, I knew that. That's kind of rude, to be honest.
I don't even have a script in front of me. Let's move on.
Yeah, you roast me without a script. And joining me for a record third time in a row, Tyler Vornberg.
Hello.
Also our resident not basketball watcher.
It's true. Tyler does not know much about basketball, so the topics he goes ahead and researches them ahead of time, so a lot of the takes you're getting are from someone who has no biases towards any of the players or teams.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
also...
Therefore, my opinion is the most important.
Yeah, and
You
also
remember
by
that.
ahead of time, 2 hours ahead of time, because that's
Yes.
when I get you the script. So, yeah, let's just jump right into it. So, Ben Simmons and Magic Johnson have been...
Oh,
of course.
God, do you have another quiz mutiny show?
Could you gotta have better timing, honestly.
on the script it says banter or some other stuff Cameron has, so I have retitled this the newly fully endorsed Light Banter Mutiny Quiz Show.
The Light Banter Mutiny Quiz Show.
Are you gentlemen ready to play?
Before I started my topic.
So, we're going to go do the newly fully endorsed Light Banter Mutiny Quiz Show, and today, instead of $1, as you both can see, I have issue number 1 of the Avant-Gardes, which is a comic book about a all-women college basketball team at an art school. And this is going to be another quiz show for Tyler,
Okay.
and this time the quiz is called MVP or Oscar Winner. I'm going to give you a year, and I'm going to give you 2 names. For those of you who don't know, Tyler, although legendarily bad at recognizing basketball players' names, is also legendarily bad at recognizing who?
Everyone else that matters.
There you go. So this is going to be interesting. I'm going to give you a year and 2 names, and you have to tell me which one is the basketball MVP from that year, and which one is the best actor winner from that year.
Alright.
If you get 3 of the 5 pairs correct, you win this comic book.
Alright, let's get started.
Are you ready? I'm going to start with a real easy one. You ready?
Oh boy.
2014,
Alright.
Kevin Durant versus Lupita Nyong'o.
Kevin Durant is the basketball MVP. Is it? Am I wrong?
You're correct.
Okay.
You're correct. Lupita Nyong'o is the best supporting actress. She's a lady from 12 Years a Slave. I was trying to stumble you up early. 2011. Derrick Rose versus Colin Firth.
Oh, I don't know this one. I'm gonna go with Derrick Rose as the Oscar winner.
Derrick Rose is the Oscar winner for his role as a guard on the Chicago Bulls. He's the basketball
MVP.
player. He's the
Oh.
MVP. Colin Firth was Best Actor for King George IV in The King's Speech in 2011. Moving right along, 2005. Steve Nash and Jamie Foxx. Which one's the actor, which one's the basketball player?
Jamie Foxx is the actor.
Good job.
There you go.
Do you have any idea what he won for?
No clue. I do recognize his name though.
Ray Charles and Ray. Steve Nash was
Oh,
a former
was
Maverick,
that
and he
year?
won this MVP for his role as a guard on the Phoenix Suns. So right now you're at 2 correct, 1 wrong. We're heading into the last 2.
Okay.
2004, Sean Penn versus Kevin Garnett.
Kevin Garnett sounds like a basketball name. I'm gonna go with he's the basketball player.
Nope, nothing gets by you. That's right. Kevin
That's
Garnett
right.
won MVP
Second
as a
guessing
forward for the
yourself
Minnesota
immediately.
Timberwolves.
Your size that I got it wrong and that I got it right are identical, so it's hard to tell.
2002, 2 names for you. Denzel Washington versus Tim Duncan. Who's the actor? Who's the basketball player?
Denzel Washington's a basketball player, right?
Denzel Washington is an actor, and
No.
he won Best Actor for his role as Alonzo Harris in the movie Training Day. Tim Duncan for his role as a forward on the San Antonio Spurs. MVP.
Both those names sounded familiar, but I couldn't remember which was which.
Well,
let's
folks, if
see.
you didn't believe him before, you believe him now. He doesn't know anything about
2014
basketball.
he got correct. 2011 he got incorrect, said Colin Firth was a basketball
He got
player.
correct.
2005 knew Jamie Foxx right away was an actor. 2004 knew Kevin Garnett was a basketball player. That's 3, ladies and
That's
gentlemen.
sweet. Tyler
The
wins.
comment goes to you. Good job, buddy.
Thank you.
This has been the newly fully endorsed Light Banter Mutiny Quiz Show
Fully endorsed by...
by the script.
Oh, by the script, okay. I thought you were fully endorsed by a company. I was like...
Oh, it's sponsored by
dude.
the comic, yeah.
Oh.
No, just kidding. I paid $4 for that earlier today.
So I was like...
Thank you for listening to the Light Banter Mutiny Quiz Show.
So, Ben Simmons and Magic Johnson
Okay.
have been wanting to get together, you know,
I do know.
flirt a little bit, if some would say.
There's been some back and forth.
There's been some back and forth. Quoting Ben Simmons, he actually said, big guard stuff. That's what they wanted to talk
Okay.
about. Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. The rest of the NBA, however, they don't like that. Not one bit. So recently they were going to be the NBA was going to investigate them for tampering. Again, Magic Johnson just seems to be under the tampering microscope. I mean, this is like the third or fourth time. But also, there was a report today that came out that they didn't find anything in tampering. But I mean, the fact that they publicly made an announcement about them being investigated for tampering, I mean, that's really the bulk of the punishment is the scrutiny that you get from it afterwards. Because I mean, $50,000 is nothing to either of those people.
You can lose draft picks.
Yeah, and you can lose draft that
So-
too. But
They're still dangerous, especially for a repeat offender like
like
Magic Johnson.
like Magic. So yeah, do you think just like the rest of the NBA, like they just don't like Magic Johnson?
No, I don't think it's that. There's got to be partial, an amount that people don't like the Lakers because you saw that in trades earlier last week. But I think part of it is that Magic Johnson obviously was a superstar player, and after retirement, he sort of gained notoriety as a very outspoken former player. He would regularly comment on what was happening inside the league, comment on how players were doing. And so as an executive, I think he's still kind of shaking off the rust of trying to avoid speaking that publicly. From what happened, the reports go, Ben Simmons spoke to the Sixers management, or not the management, someone in the Sixers organization who then got it to Magic Johnson, and then Magic said, you need to ask the owner.
Mm-hmm,
And
correct.
then the owner said no. So I don't know what the Sixers were thinking, even having it go that far without talking to the owner. Or is Elton Brand the owner or the GM?
Elton Brand is the owner.
Okay, so without going to Elton Brand first. So I don't really know if Magic did anything wrong with tampering. He went back and forth. But the thing he did wrong was speaking about it to the media a month after it had already been resolved with Elton Brand.
Yeah.
Not really worthy, obviously, of a tampering discussion, but certainly a strange thing to do, and I think some of the stuff he brings on himself. And also it's worth noting here that Ben Simmons is a client of Rich Paul from Clutch Sports, who is LeBron's agent and a lot of the time LeBron's lackey. And so you saw similar sort of tampering allegations with Rich Paul being the agent for Anthony Davis.
Yeah, let me just correct myself there. Actually, Josh Harris is the owner
Okay.
of the Sixers. Elton Brand is the GM.
Okay.
And Elton Brand is actually the one who denied
Correct.
or is not going to let Ben Simmons talk to them. So I was just wrong about the title there. But yeah, you can continue with your point.
No, that's basically all I have. Just I understand why there's some scrutiny on Magic Johnson because I think a lot of the times he says stuff to the media that he doesn't need to.
Yeah.
But in this case, I think it was all a bit overblown and people were kind of already high on the Anthony Davis stuff. But I don't
Yeah.
think it's that they hate him. I think he's just kind of getting used to the professionalism of a GM role.
Yeah, so Tyler, looking from kind of the outside in, not really knowing who these two people are, but you've heard Magic Johnson's name, because I know from your research, I'm sure, the whole Anthony Davis scenario, you heard his name and kind of know that he's been involved in some tampering things. What do you think about, like, him constantly kind of almost being picked on by the NBA? Not picked on, but his name coming up in tampering.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Cameron. I don't think it's particularly a prejudice towards him. I think it's just because he has a history of these incidents. And so, while a phone call, it probably is just innocent, but you have a guy who regularly does shit like this, it's not too much of a stretch to assume, is there something going on there?
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe they went a little overboard publicly announcing it, but I think they made the right decision with not finding him or anything.
Yeah. So if not, then why does his name always come up in these scenarios? Why does the NBA decide to always put out a statement when it involves him, as opposed to, other players? We talked about tampering before with Draymond Green and all of that. Why is his name kind of seem to always pop up, even though there's probably tampering going on in other parts of basketball, not just with the Lakers?
I think part of what you could be hitting at, Paul, is that some of the teams certainly have a bias towards the Lakers, like we talked about with the trade stuff last week. And so, the league investigated Magic for tampering because another team complained. They didn't just read the news and the stories. In the media, I think they got complaints from other teams about this, because I can definitely imagine being a small market team and seeing players go to a Lakers team that didn't hit 40 wins last year and sort of be annoyed by that and sort of think, maybe it's not just the large market, maybe it's something Magic's doing with the players, maybe it's the connection he has with the players. So again, I don't know if it's the league that's prejudiced towards Magic, but I think certainly the teams are prejudiced against the Lakers, even if they might respect Magic, and Magic is doing himself no favors by his comments.
I think the NBA is majority small market teams, so there are more owners with small markets. So I think they try to push the NBA to enforce rules a lot, and obviously, when you're the GM of the Lakers, or not GM, owner, kind of executive, he's not technically the GM, it's Rob Pelinka. I think when you have a lot of small owners like that, they want to be heard, and they don't want things like this happening, things behind the scenes. So I think they don't dislike Magic Johnson, but they don't want to lose their ability to sign free agents. And I think that's the big issue here. So speaking of great Lakers, Russell Westbrook and James Harden both recently broke 2 records for Wilt Chamberlain's. Wilt the Still. Russell Westbrook broke the record for most consecutive games with a triple-double in 10 games. And James Harden broke Wilt Chamberlain's record for most consecutive games with at least 30 points.
And I'll say on that record, too, because I read that, he broke one of his records for most consecutive games with 30 points.
Correct.
He held multiple records in a row, so Harden still does not have number 1, but he's getting closer. I just wanted to make that clarification.
Yeah. So imagine yourself as a general manager in the league.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. I can't think of his name right now. The owner of the or the GM of the Thunder,
Sam Presti.
Sam Presti. Just put yourself in Sam Presti's shoes, for instance.
But in the future now, not when he actually had this decision. Okay.
If you had to pick between the two, who would you choose to have on your team?
So
you only had a spot for 1 max slot.
Okay. Yeah, if you don't mind here, what I'm going to do is assume that I am a team, say the Seattle Sonics, who don't exist, so I don't have any players I need to match them with. And I'm going to assume that I'm signing them both to the same contract.
Correct.
So irrespective of contract.
Yeah.
So in this case, I think both of them are excellent players, and I think what Russell Westbrook is doing right now is being an incredible second option to Paul George, and I think is a lot of the reason why Paul George is very obviously hitting his prime above any other season he's ever had by far. And his ability to facilitate and rebound and control the game and all that fronts is great, but his general lack of efficiency, I think, kind of hinders him from being a legitimate first option on a playoff team. That's what you're seeing right now. I think if they win, the success will be in large part due to him, but in larger part due to Paul George. And I think, as you've seen by the last 30 days, James Harden is not only the first option. For a while, he was the only option for the Rockets.
Yeah.
He kept them in the playoff picture, and he actually made the Rockets flourish. He's a potential MVP, and though I don't always enjoy his play style, I think it's impossible to deny the impact he's had on the game. And since he's improved his defense this year, if I was a GM of this fictional team, I would have to go with James Harden over Russell Westbrook, although I think you'd be lucky to have either of them.
Okay, so I'm going to preface this with, personally, I like more efficient scores, and neither of them are particularly efficient, especially Russell Westbrook. He is less efficient than James Harden. But if I had to choose, I would rather have a facilitator like Russell Westbrook than just a scorer like James Harden. I think James Harden dribbles the ball too much, and that's really hard for other players. Now, since he's so good, he can carry a team by himself to the playoff. But if I wanted to get further, give me Russell Westbrook. because he's also an elite defender.
Yeah.
Russell Westbrook's an elite defender at the point guard position. Last year, he wasn't really, but he didn't dedicate himself to it like this year. This year, since Paul George has the majority of the scoring load, I mean, the OKC's defense is just insanely good. I think they're 4th in the league right now.
They've been fluctuating since the new year, but yeah.
Yeah, they've been as high as 1st, as low as 8th or something.
Yeah. Still good.
Still really good. Yeah, and I know he kind of stat pads a little bit, but when I think of MVP, I think of all facets of the game, not just scoring, assisting, defense, pace. And James Harden has great pace by himself. He doesn't dictate his own team's pace or the other team's pace. Russell Westbrook does that. So for me, I'd rather take Russell Westbrook. Obviously, he's not as efficient, or not even close to the shooter James Harden is. But I would rather have a player like that. But he can still score, that's the thing. He's averaging 21 points a game. He can still score, and he's just crazy explosive, has a motor that never stops, and sometimes I think people question James Harden's motor a lot of times because there was that, Game 7 last year where it looked like he seemingly just got tired or quit. I hate to say that a player quit, but he seemed pretty exhausted. And then also against that San Antonio series, sorry.
Sure.
He got blocked by Manu Ginobili at the 3-point line, which is crazy because Manu Ginobili was 39 at the time. That should never happen. Tyler, did you know either of these players? I know you probably knew James Harden.
Yeah, we talked about both of these before.
Okay, we have. So you kind of knew who they were.
Yeah. Actually, this is actually the first topic I didn't do any research on. It's just my wits.
Oh,
wow.
Really? Interesting.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay.
So I'm leaning towards Russell Westbrook for most of the same reason that you had. Russell Westbrook felt more like a more well-rounded player. James Harden more of just a hard scorer. Mm-hmm. And I think that facilitator really helps. The other thing I wanted to point out, though, is we talked about James Harden in our first episode, and we said, he tends to choke during the playoffs, where he does well during the normal season, but then chokes during the playoffs. And, you specifically wrote which player is more likely to win a championship. Well, I lean towards Russell Westbrook for that very reason, because James Harden is likely to choke. More realistically, though, I'm not really sure what the Thunder's situation is, but I can see myself picking James Harden in a certain scenario. Like, let's say, I already have good facilitation. If I need a guy who can get lots of points, though, then I would pick James Harden. But just generally speaking, though, I tend to lean toward Russell Westbrook in more scenarios than not.
So some background on that, why I made that Sam Presti joke was James Harden was actually drafted by the Thunder, and they went to the finals. They had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden all on the same team. Mm-hmm. And then the next offseason, they were going to re-sign James Harden, but they weren't going to give him the max he could get. Uh-huh. They wanted to save $2 million, and so they traded him to the Rockets.
There was a lot of time there, too, it has to be said, that James Harden was more of a come-off-the-bench player.
He was their sixth man.
He was clearly the third best out of those three.
Yeah.
It was not until he got to Houston that he was able to blossom.
Yeah, correct.
So I have some...
But he was also really young. I
don't blame him for this, but
yeah.
I have some pushback for both of you on this one. Paul, you mentioned efficiency, and I think it's underselling Harden to say that he's not very efficient. He has, honestly, some of the better true shooting percentages this year. You can hate the free throw shooting game as I do, but they still count. They're extraordinarily efficient. And he has, I think it's something like an average of a 61% true shooting for the year. He has roughly, I think, a 35 to 36% from three shooting range this year, and he's shooting them at a clip that has not been seen since Steph Curry, who, it's worth mentioning, if you're comparing the two, Steph Curry is going to blow anybody in the basketball world out of the water on that front. Yeah. But James Harden is head and shoulders above Russell Westbrook. And I will say to Tyler on the end of choking in the playoffs, while it's true for both of you that James Harden had the worst series, it could have been a career-defining series against the San Antonio Spurs. Last year, I don't know if you can really chalk it up to him choking. There was definitely an instance in Game 7 where he, and along with the rest of his team, did not get into rhythm shooting three-pointers and seemed to get tired at the end of the game. But they were without their second-best player, and throughout the rest of the series, James Harden played really pretty well. He took the best team in the history of the league up until this year to 7 games, and so I think you have have to respect his game at least that year. I think they're very close, but I just wanted to give some pushback on those two fronts.
Yeah, and not to saying James Harden chokes in the playoffs, Russell Westbrook also isn't particularly good in the playoffs. That year that he was just by himself at the first season where he averaged a triple-double, they got kicked out in the first round. And then last year,
Last year was bad.
Last year that was
with Paul George.
That was with Paul George and everything. Now, granted, it's kind of a different system. They're in a new system now. They're a little bit more comfortable, but they did get beat by the Utah Jazz pretty badly.
You got to determine what's worse: getting blocked by a 39-year-old Ginobili or getting destroyed by a 14-year-old Donovan Mitchell. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both bad looks on their careers, but like I said, I'd rather have that guy who has just an endless motor.
Yeah.
He's going to give you everything till the bitter end. And he's just, I don't like how either of them treat the media because they're both pretty iffy towards the media. Russell Westbrook's a little bit, will say some quick things, and James Harden doesn't, slap phones out of fans' hands or whatever.
Yeah.
But I would just, I don't know. This is just personal preference. I would rather take Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
Not saying that I think Russell Westbrook is a better player than James Harden. It's just who I would take for my team.
Sure.
So, new game to the Paul Stops Here podcast. We have one every week, it seems like. This game, since we were comparing two great players, we're going to compare some more players.
Hello and welcome to the Hunger Games of basketball.
Okay.
And it took me a long time to come up with these comparisons.
I think you did a good job.
Honestly, it took me a while to think of players who would be tough for people to get. Now, granted, I also want to add into this we're talking about this year. We're talking about right now. I'm not talking about current contracts, current playing, everything. Record, things like that. So, because there's some players in here who have a little bit better resume than other players, but I'm doing right now. Yeah, let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
Tyler, first. I want to get your opinion first on this one.
Actually, can we have Cameron go first on this first one?
No, we're going to have you go first on this.
Okay, let's push him.
I want to push him on this. Because I'm pretty sure I know who Cameron's going to go with, but I want to get your opinion.
All right.
So, who would you rather have? Steph Curry or Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Well, the reason I wanted Cameron to go first is because I based my opinion entirely on which one Cameron was going to go with. So, he mentioned Steph Curry was his favorite player. And so I said, okay, let's try. I'm going to try and make the best case for Giannis. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. Make the best case for Giannis I can. And so here's the argument I come up with. So although Steph Curry does have better stats than Giannis is 6 years younger than Steph.
It's a silent G. It's just Giannis.
Sorry.
Giannis.
No, it's fine. You don't know who he is.
Go ahead.
Giannis is 6 years younger than Steph Curry. And if you compare, Giannis is 24 now. If you compare what Steph Curry's stats were when he was 24, they are worse by a pretty big margin than Giannis is now. So Giannis has the potential to become an outright better player than Steph Curry.
But I'm talking about right now, rest of this season. Who would you rather take? I'm not talking about potential.
It's rest of this season?
Rest of this season.
Okay.
Who would you rather have?
Well, if we're talking just rest of this season, then I have to go with Steph Curry.
Steph Curry. Okay.
So, by you letting Tyler go first, as you can both see, I did run to my room and put on my Steph Curry jersey.
Steph
which is more of a joke than anything else because I think these two players for this game, are actually really close. I am also going to go with Steph Curry for a couple reasons. First of all, I will say that Giannis is having what I think is the best individual season in the NBA this year. I think he deserves the MVP because while he's having an incredible scoring season and he's somehow in the last couple games developing a three-point shot as well, he's putting up Defensive Player of the Year numbers as well on defense. But in terms of what Steph Curry brings to the table, he's the greatest shooter in the history of the league. I don't think anybody can dispute that anymore. And you hear it talked about a lot, but the gravity of him as a shooter pulling multiple defenders to him way beyond the arc is what allows people like Boogie Cousins now to get wide open in the lane. You saw it in the finals against Cleveland where Kevin Durant would get dunks where he literally marched directly up to the rack and dunked it because they were so afraid of 3 points from Steph Curry. I think the two players are really, really close, but the offensive output of Steph Curry is something that we really haven't seen. I would say that it's historic, but the player that's on his team right next to him, Kevin Durant, is the greatest scorer in the history of the NBA. So you have two of the greatest offensive players since MJ right there next to each other. Okay. I'm going to give it to Steph Curry.
All right, so I'm going to give some points here to Giannis. Giannis last night became the fastest player to 200 regular season dunks since records began. The previous fastest player was Shaq in 53 games. He did it in 52. So just to put that out, okay?
Shaq a scrub.
Whoa!
No, I'm joking.
Well, Giannis is the new Superman. But anyways, I think both players are the most dominant player at what they do best offensively right now. Steph, maybe ever. Giannis, definitely right now.
Yeah.
Giannis can get to the rack and dunk over anybody. 2 players, 3 players, 4 players. I don't care if the entire team is around Giannis. He's dunking the basketball all over them.
He's amazing. Yeah.
It is the most demoralizing thing watching Giannis do a Euro step from the 3-point line and dunk it all over a 7-footer.
Jump over people. Jump over a 6 foot.
Yeah, he jumped over Tim Hardaway.
Man. Insanity.
Who is a solid 6'4". Like, just jump over him.
Yeah.
Steph Curry, though, again, it is so demoralizing watching Steph pull up from 30 feet and hit 3 of them in a row, and you just go, or come off a screen, or...
And the game's over.
It's over, and he's got sick handles, and he's a great finisher around the basket. It's him and Kyrie.
Yep.
And...
For history, yeah.
For history, yeah. There's a couple guys. I also like some older guys, like Isaiah Thomas, but, yeah, I'd take Steph Curry.
That surprises me.
I would take Steph Curry right now.
It's close. It's so close because Giannis is so good, but just at their careers...
I think Steph is one of the most unselfish superstars ever, and yeah, I really respect that. I think Giannis is too. Giannis is like sharing the ball, likes winning, but right now I would just take Steph Curry because of how relevant the 3-point line is. These next two, another tough one. Cameron, Paul George or Joel Embiid? Who you got?
So I'm going to do sort of a similar thing as I did in the last round here, because I hate to do it, but Joel Embiid is having a really, really excellent season right now. However, he's still young. As crazy as it sounds, I don't think we've seen him in his prime yet, even though he's already, one of the best players in the league. Paul George is squarely 100%, no denial, in his prime right now.
Yeah.
People are saying that he could win. He won't win it, but people are saying that he has every right to win Most Improved Player, while at the same time as he's putting up top 3 candidate for MVP numbers. It's a Defensive Player of the Year performance this year. Last night he got 48 points and a triple-double.
It's pretty wild.
It's insane.
That's LeBron shit there.
I think both of these players we're going to see go a long distance in the playoffs. I think the Thunder are a better team than the Sixers, although I think they're close. If it's between these two, I take the player that I believe is more complete and is more mature in their prime, and that's got to be Paul George.
Okay. Tyler?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Cameron. Although that Joel probably has more potential than Paul George, I think Paul George, as of right now, is doing better. Based on my normal research methods, which is a brief skim of their Wikipedia page, the numbers were higher in George's.
Yeah. This is kind of boring. So I'm actually going to go from what I originally thought, because I kind of had a moment to stew over what you guys said. Just pointing out, though, Paul George in his last 12 games is averaging 36 points, 7.9 rebounds, 4.7 assists, with 2.5 steals a game, while shooting 49.2% from 3.
Insane.
OKC's 11-1 over that span. Those are unreal numbers.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's probably... I know everyone's talking about James Harden's span of games, that he's, over 30. This is more impressive to me.
Those 12 games are more impressive than James Harden's last 12 games.
Absolutely. Yeah. Last year I would have laughed at you if I had given myself these two players to compare, because I would have said Joel Embiid easily, not even close. Paul George is trash. That's probably what I would have told you.
A little harsh.
Well, not trash, but
not as good as Joel. Yeah.
Not as good as Joel. And I'm still going to go with Joel Embiid. I just think the dude, he surprises me every week with what he does. He's a modern-day Hakeem Olajuwon, except bigger and can shoot the 3. Yeah. Which is crazy. So, yeah, I'd rather have that anchor who can just... I mean, you give him the ball anywhere and he can score.
I'd put slight air quotes on shoot the 3. It's 30%.
It's 30% for a big man who shoots... I think he shoots 2 or 3 a game. Yeah. That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
So, I would rather take Joel Embiid. I mean, just give it to him on the low block, and he bullies Giannis down there. So, I mean, he's just that good. Next players. These are a little bit lesser known players. Tobias Harris or D'Angelo Russell. Who you got, Cameron?
So, both these players I think are kind of having breakout seasons this year. Tobias Harris was traded to the Sixers like 4 days ago or something, which was a crazy move for the Sixers to spend a lot of picks, and a crazy move for the Clippers, who appeared to be blowing it up for the season, but have somehow stayed in games late. And D'Angelo Russell has led the Nets to improbable wins over and over again. I think this one's close as well on this season, but I'm just going to have to go with the consistency of Tobias Harris on this one. Even though I think D'Angelo Russell has in spurts been a better player and is, one of the first options on the Nets, and Tobias Harris is a third or fourth option. But just the fact that Tobias Harris has been consistent for the past couple years means that I think I can trust him more going into the postseason, whereas it's sort of a question mark for D'Angelo Russell. Yeah. I think Tobias Harris has a good shot of getting a max in the offseason that I don't think exists for D'Angelo Russell. So between the two players, again, I think you did a great job picking these players. I think they're all really close. I'm going to go with Toby.
Okay. For me, this one was really tough. Tobias Harris was a borderline all-star in the West. D'Angelo Russell is an all-star in the East, replacing Victor Oladipo. I think if Tobias Harris was in the East, he would have made the all-star game probably over Blake Griffin, honestly. For me, it's really tough because both of them are excellent shooters and scorers. I think Tobias Harris is a slightly better defender than D'Angelo Russell, so that's who I would take. I would take the better defender, better overall game. But both of them are just crazy efficient from 3 and from 2. They can just kind of score from wherever. Tyler.
So, I don't know how often you look at their Wikipedia pages, but I mean, they have like...
Not very.
They have like the list of highlights, which I assume are like abnormally good games for them. And D'Angelo's were consistently higher than Tobias's.
Okay.
And so, well, I can see that maybe Tobias is more consistent. I think that...
You're taking the streaks.
Yeah. D'Angelo's, when he does well, it's high enough to where I think I can justify picking him.
So you're taking the more explosive player.
Yes.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That's definitely a good point. Lightning round. It's here, back again.
We're ready.
Version 2.
Version 2.
It's the same version.
Same.
It's the same version. We'll just say second time lightning round instead of version 2.
This is the lightning round! Yeah.
So last time lightning round was a little messy. It'll probably be even more messy this time.
Oh, okay.
Because it's going to be trade version, yes. We're going over the trades that we didn't talk about. I promise you this is the last time we talk about trades. I'm sick and tired of it, honestly. 3 episodes of trades, forget that. Okay, this is the last part. This is why I didn't want to spend any more time on it.
Let's go.
So let's do it. All I want from you guys is whether or not you like the trade. Okay, I'm only going to say one side of a trade. I'm not going to say what the other team got back.
Sure.
So just say I liked it or I didn't like it. Cameron, did you like Tobias Harris to Philly?
Yes.
Tyler?
This is not fair. This is not us in any way. Okay, Tyler, here's a breakdown of the trade really quick. You saw Tobias Harris. He's a consistent scorer. The 76ers are on the verge. They have 2 really, really good players. They needed shooters. They have Jimmy Butler as well, who's been a third option, but he's still been really good. They sold basically all their draft picks, all the stuff they've been building up to go for Tobias Harris. It looks like they're going for a Hail Mary to the postseason, trying to become the clear-cut leader in the East. Tyler, do you like that trade?
Seems risky, no.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, there you go. So, Nikola Mirotic to the Milwaukee Bucks. Cameron.
Okay, Tyler, this is a similar type of trade that happened to the 76ers. They needed another consistent scoring option other than Giannis, who we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
They gave away Thon, is his last name Baker?
Maker.
Maker. I was like, Maker can't possibly be the name, but it's true. Who hasn't really done much, but he did do an amazing punch in the international series.
I will say something about Thon Maker. No one knows what his age is. No one knows how old he is.
He's sort of an enigma in that case.
He's an enigma. No one knows what his age is.
It's a similar situation to Philly, but the idea is they gave up less and they got back less. He's not quite as good as Tobias Harris, but he's still a good pickup, and they're also, at the same time, it's sort of an arms race in the East, trying to be the best. I do like this pick. I don't think they gave up too much. Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, this one seems less risky. I think it's okay.
Okay.
Next one is going to be Reggie Bullock and Mike Muscala to the Lakers. The theme of these trades, Tyler, is each of these teams want to shoot for the postseason now, and they all needed shooting.
Okay.
That's the theme of a lot of deadline trades, is teams usually need shooters. And so if you're a shooter and you're nearing the NBA trade line, you're not safe. You're not safe.
So remind us of the players again for this one.
Reggie Bullock and Mike Muscala.
Like Reggie Bullock, do not like Mike Muscala. Why on God's green earth would you give up Zubac? Okay,
Tyler,
you're looking at me again.
So for Reggie Bullock, they gave up a young player who they kind of had. There was a second round pick for Reggie Bullock, who's one of the best 3-and-D players in the league.
Okay.
I mean, shoot the 3 and play defense.
Yeah, shoot the 3 and play defense. He's one of the best in the league. And Mike Muscala, they gave up one of their better young players and a draft pick.
And a center, which is the big guy who stands in the middle. They don't have much depth there.
And Mike Muscala is a power forward, but he's really good at shooting the basketball.
Two separate trades.
Okay. I don't know. It seems like you're giving up quite a bit there. I'm not sure. I'm not so sure. I'm gonna go with no.
On both of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, both of them? Okay. Yeah, that was it. Those were the only trades I wanted to go over.
All right.
The really big ones. Oh, never mind. Otto Porter to the Bulls for Jabari Parker and Bobby Portis.
From the Wizards to the
Yes.
Bulls? Don't really understand it for either team. I think Bobby Portis then got moved around a bunch of different times after and then ended up back on the Bulls or something?
No, Bobby Portis is still in the Wizards.
Still in the Wizards.
Yeah, he didn't get moved.
Oh, so there was one player who's getting passed around, but I don't really understand. I'm sure it's cap space. I don't know the players well enough to comment on it.
It is cap space.
I'm gonna give it a push for either team. If they both said yes, they're both tanking. I don't think it affects much. I'm gonna say it's a fine trade.
So Otto Porter had a pretty big contract for what he was doing for the Wizards. He was essentially their sixth man, and he was making $20 million plus. Jabari Parker also making $20 million, coming off of he used to play for the Bucks, had some pretty nasty ACL tears, and then the Bulls for some reason gave him a 2-year, $40 million contract just out of nowhere. But they played each other literally right after they got traded. Jabari Parker had the best game of his career, so I'll give him that. And Bobby Portis said he wanted to be a Bull for life, and they slapped him in the face. So Tyler, what do you think? What do you think about that?
Sure, why not?
You like the trade? Okay, he loves the trade.
At the end of the lightning round, I have something to say to you both.
That is the end of the lightning round. That is the end.
To end the whole shebang, I'm reading a tweet right now.
Okay.
From @NoahLevick on Twitter. Ben Simmons walked in the locker room, sat down, and said, quote, "That's like the 10th time Magic has called me today." After pausing for a second, he clarified that he was, of course, joking.
Yes.
We talked about it earlier.
That's ridiculous.
Ben Simmons out to
joking.
get Magic Johnson.
Thank you all again for joining the podcast this week, the Slam I Am podcast, episode 3. If you like this content, we have 2 more episodes up right now. If you like content like this, please go to our website, thepaulstopshere.com, for more content like this. We've got some great articles up right now, and Cameron does all the animations for that, and it's fantastic. And thank you guys again. Again, smash that MF like button. I can't say anything more than that other than also subscribe.
Hit the bell.
Hit the bell. You might as well hit the bell too while you're at it. You've got 3 it's 3 clicks away. That's all I gotta say.
Before we go, I just wanted to add on one thing to what Paul was talking about earlier. On the Paul Stops Here right now, our most recent article was written by Paul. It talks about Twitter and the NBA, just to go off of the Ben Simmons tweet. It talks about who the most active players in the NBA are at tweets. It talks about Woj bombs. It talks about really all the great stuff that's online right now. So you really should go check that out if you like talking about Twitter and you like talking about the drama of the NBA.
It is my favorite animation that you have put up.
Thank you very much.
My favorite illustration is...
We've got some funny stuff up there right now.
The main illustration for that is absolutely hilarious with the crying Jordan face.
Tyler, what did you think of that article?
I have not read it yet.
There we go.
There
Thank
you go.
you so much.
What's your advertisement? I will absolutely go check it out.
There it is.
And I will smash that MF like button.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Curry splits the defense behind the back. Fires a 3. Oh, he puts it in. What a spectacular move. And it's the largest lead of the game. That could be the greatest move I've ever seen.